We are in Judges chapter 11. Judges chapter 11. Last week, Tori left us on the edge of our seats, not knowing what was going to happen unless we read the next chapter. And so we're going to get into what happened with the Israelites after last week's situation. One of the things that is every commentary agrees on, we've talked about the cycle of sin, how the Israelites do this repeated cycle where they'll serve God for a little bit, and then they wander away and they start doing idols, and then they get taken over, and they cry out to God, and God sends a judge, and they get restored. And Bernie and I were talking about this. What's really interesting about all the commentaries I read, and I'm going to make a point with this later on in the class, well, one of the interesting things about all the commentaries that I read is this cycle is in every commentary ever. Some version of this cycle is in every commentary. Now you got to put a mark on that, and we're going to come back to that in a little bit. All right. So Judges 11. So again, we're looking at a time frame between 1400 and 1000 for the period of the Judges. Leading up to Judges 11, the Ammonites had oppressed Israel for 18 years. We saw that back in verse 10 and chapter 10 and verse 8. Here's a timeline of the Judges and kind of the area that we're in. Jephthah is right here, about this time frame here. If you notice, he's kind of a contemporary with Eli and Samuel, okay? And this is about the time that the Judges and 1 Samuel kind of overlap a little bit. If you notice on the bottom here, Samson is in that area too. So, no, that was kind of interesting. The principal people that we are going to be dealing with today are the Ammonites. They crushed and oppressed the people of Israel and wanted to take Israel's land of their own. Jephthah was a mighty warrior from Gilead. He was the son of a prostitute, and we'll get into that. And if you remember, we know Jephthah, you may remember him from Hebrews the 11th chapter, verse 32, in that great hall of fame of faith that we talk about in Hebrews 11. In Hebrews 11, he says, and can we not, I don't have all the time to go on about all these other guys, and Jephthah is mixed in there. We're going to talk about that a little bit later also. And then we have Jephthah's daughter. She's the only child who becomes victim of a vow made by her father. And we'll talk about whether it's foolish or rash. Most of Judge 11 centers around the land of Gilead. Gilead was east side of the Jordan. We're going to look at the map in a minute. And Gad's land was on the southern part of Manasseh's territory in Gilead. The lands of Edom, Moab, Ammon, and the lands of the Amorites were also central to the story in Judges 11. They're all lands on the east side of the river. And I try to give y'all maps that y'all can see this. So it's kind of over there on that side over there. Over there for you people, okay? And then there's a bigger map. And there's another map. Oh, there's another map. Okay. Just think about it on that side, okay? It's on that side, all right? All right. In sections here, we're going to look how Jephthah was chosen, Jephthah and Ammon there, the discussion there, and then what everybody goes to and everybody talks about in this chapter, Jephthah's vow. So let's look at the text. Now, Jephthah, the Gilead, was a mighty man of valor, but he was the son of a harlot. And Gilead begot Jephthah. Gilead's wife bore sons, and when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, you shall have no inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman. Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob, and worthless men banded together with Jephthah and went out raiding with him. And it came to pass after a time that the people of Ammon made war against Israel. And so it was, when the people of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to Jephthah from the land of Tob, and they said to Jephthah, come and be our commander that we may fight against the people of Ammon. So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, do you hate me and expel me from my father's house? Why have you come to me now when you are in distress? Can one of you fellas get me a water, please? Thank you. So, again, we got Jephthah here. Jephthah is called a mighty man of valor. That phrase usually is related to somebody who is strong militarily and possesses great courage and integrity. Gideon was called a mighty man of valor. And thank you. And there's a lot of, Nicholas Pulley, by the way, and he's just back from Europe and all them other places. Wild adventures he had over there. Anyway. But there's a lot of parallels to Gideon. If you remember, we found Gideon was in a wine press. Was in a wine press threshing wheat when God said, hey, when God sent messengers to him. And notice the problem that we have with Jephthah here. He was the son of a harlot, which kind of makes him an outcast. Jewish writing tells us that Gilead's wife was a Gentile or an Ishmaelite. And of course, Deuteronomy 23:2 says, one of illegitimate birth shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. So similar to Gideon here, we see that God chose someone that we wouldn't pick. In fact, all through this, one of the things that you've got to acknowledge is the fact that God doesn't do stuff like we do. Remember that passage that says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways? This is why it's important for us to do what God says, the way God says it. And the reason I bring that up is because sometimes we love to help God out. We think, we should just do it this way over here, or we should do it that way over there, and that'll be better. And God consistently has said, do it my way. Do it the way I tell you to do it. One of the things that you got to get from the Old Testament is, and especially that I get from Judges here, is that we wouldn't do it the way God does. I'm telling you, there's not a military commander around that would say, hey, there's too many people here, go home, like he did with Gideon. Okay? It's just not. I've never known a military commander yet that didn't think he needed more people. And to pick this guy who's out there with a bunch of rabble-rousers and they're off raiding villages, well, that's not the way that most of us will look at it. So we got to keep that in mind. So the people come to Jephthah, and look, he's the son of a harlot. He's been exiled by his brethren, and on top of that, he's been rejected by all the people. And now they're going to come hat in hand, and he says to them, do you not hate me and expel me from my father's house? Why have you now come to me now when you are in distress? And what's the answer to that question? What's the answer to that question? Okay, see, when I do this, I get from behind the podium. I'm not like Paul. When I get from behind the podium, that means y'all supposed to answer the question. Okay. Why have they come to him when they are in distress?
They should be going to God.
They should be going to God. But why have they come to him?
Maybe because he knows that he's close to God.
Okay, all right. The Ammonites are oppressing them. They're taking all their stuff. Why would they go to this guy? Because he's a mighty warrior. Because he can get something done, right? He's had success. He's a leader. He's able to get things, able to make things happen. So you go to this guy. And the elders of Gilead, verse 8, said to Jephthah, this is why we have turned again to you now, that you may go with us and fight against the people of Ammon, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, if you take me back home to fight against the people of Ammon, and the Lord delivers them to me, shall I be your head? And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, the Lord will be a witness between us, and if we do not do according to your words, then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head. Now the elders, they are made a vow. So you come with us, and you lead us in the fight against Ammon, and we'll make you the head. Okay? And Jephthah spoke all the words before the Lord in Mizpah. All right? So it takes a bit of humility to go crawling back to someone that you have rejected. Now, there's a note here in verse 8. The Hebrew does not have interrogative. So in English, we put a question mark in behind it, but it may have been a condition. All right? Where he says, the people of Ammon shall be our head over all, that you may go. Okay? So he may have proposed that as a condition, and then they agreed to that condition. I'll come back and I'll fight for you, but you're going to make me head. All right? Notice that Jephthah says, if you take me back home to fight against the people of Ammon, and the Lord delivers them to me. Okay? Jephthah, we don't know too much about his background, but we do know that he had faith in God. All right? He put his reliance on God, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Verse 12. Now Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon and said, why have you fought against me, that you have come to fight against me in my land? And the king of the people of Ammon answered the messengers of Jephthah, said, because Israel took away our land when they came out of Egypt from the Aran as far as Jabbok and to the Jordan. Now therefore restore these lands peaceably. So Jephthah again sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon and said to him, thus says Jephthah, Israel did not take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the people of Ammon. For when Israel came up from Egypt, they walked through the wilderness as far as the Red Sea. And I missed a word there. I missed a whole thing there. Boy, 14. Where are we at? 14. Hold on. I missed a whole section. Where are we at? 14. Verse 15, said to him, thus said Jephthah, Israel did not take the land of Moab or the land of Ammonites, but when they came up from Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea and came to Kadesh. Okay. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, please let me pass through your land. But the king of Edom would not heed, and in like manner they sent him to the king of Moab, that he would not consent. So Israel remained in Kadesh, and they went along through the wilderness and bypassed the land of Edom through the land of Moab, came to the east side of the land of Moab, and encamped on the other side of the Aran. They did not enter the border of Moab, for the Aran was the border of Moab. Verse 19. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, king of Heshbon, and Israel said to him, please let us pass through the land in our place. But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through the territory. So Sihon gathered all his people together, encamped in Jahaz, and fought against Israel. Verse 21, and the Lord God of Israel delivered Sihon and all his people to the hand of Israel, and they defeated them. Thus Israel gained possession of all the land of the Amorites who inhabited the country. And they took possession of all the territory of the Amorites, from the Aran to the Jabbok, from the wilderness to the Jordan. Okay, so he's going to make four arguments here. First of all, did you notice that when he comes back, he doesn't just go out and gather the army out and rush and go attack. The people went to him and said, hey, come be our leader. Now, I have in mind what they were thinking was come be our military leader and lead us in war against these people. And the first thing that he did was send messengers to the king of Ammon. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. So he makes a couple of different arguments. And the arguments, one of the things that he shows or proves is that the Pentateuch, the first 5 books, existed many, many years ago. There's a philosophy in the religious world that the books of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy were not written until much later. That all of that stuff was kind of backtracked, okay? Jephthah references them leaving Egypt, coming out of Egypt and all that, okay? So Jephthah, here in the book of Judges, says, no, that really did happen. And this is where he starts his argument. As I put on there, some have tried to say that the first 5 books did not exist until King Josiah, and that's just not true. But the summary of this particular argument is that Israel had not taken the land from the Ammonites, but they had defeated the Amorites, who were the original inhabitants of the land. Verse 23. By the way, similar verses, there's almost a verbatim argument. The very same thing happens in those sections of Numbers that I put up there. Verse 23, now the Lord of God Israel has dispossessed the Amorites from before Israel. Should you then possess it? Will you not possess whatever Shemash your God gives you to possess? So whatever the Lord our God takes possession of before us, we will possess. So argument 2 is kind of an argument to logic. And he says, look, if you Amorites claim that your God Shemash tells you to take a place, well, Jehovah, our God, tells us to take a place. So it's an argument, really a logical argument, acknowledging, but Jephthah is not acknowledging the reality of their false God. He's just saying, hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay? You can't argue about something that you would do. Verse 25. Oh, I got to make those bigger. Sorry. And now, are you any better than Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel? Did he ever fight against them? While Israel dwelt in Heshbon and its villages, in Aroer and its villages, and all the cities on the banks of the Arnon, for 300 years, why did you not recover them within that time? So his third argument is kind of a practical argument. It's based on the fact that Moab once claimed some of the territory when they had lost to the king of Sihon and displaced Moab. And he points out that even Moab never disputed Israel's rights to possess the land. So if you didn't take the land during that time period, why are you worried about taking the land now? You said it was, if it was yours all along, why didn't you take it from the Moabites? You remember Balak employed Balaam to curse Israel during this time period, just to kind of give you a refresher there. In verse 26, he says, while Israel dwelt in Heshbon and its villages, and they are. So argument 4 is kind of a statute of limitations. Jephthah's judgeship begins about 1100. Adding 300 years, the day of the conquest was about 1400 BC. The Exodus took place 40 years before that, so backtracking to be 1440. And those dates synchronize with the dates of the Exodus and the conquest. So what he's doing here is he's making an argument. Look, we've had it the longest. We've had it for the longest amount of time, ergo it ought to be ours. So he makes 4 different arguments. Instead of just going over there with guns a-blazing, he makes 4 arguments for the practicality of Israel taking this land and owning this land. All right? In America today, there's a movement to make land acknowledgments that we stole the land from, that we conquered the land from there. I remember when I was growing up in Texas, we had the Six Flags over Texas. And I thought that was just an amusement park for the longest time, until I took Texas history. And then I found out that there had been 6 flags, literally 6 flags that flew over Texas. Okay, Mexico, Spain, France, Confederates, Americans, and Texans. Okay? So if we were going to go back and say, hey, who owns this land? Well, I don't know. We do. We've been here the longest, so I could make arguments that we've been here the longest. And so he's making the argument in this particular case that we've had this the longest. It's been our land for the longest time. And you did nothing about it while the other people had it. So there you go. So we're keeping it, and we want it back. Verse 27, therefore I have not sinned against you, but you wronged me by fighting against me. May the Lord the judge render judgment this day between the children of Israel and the people of Ammon. However, the king of the people of Ammon did not heed the words which Jephthah sent him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah and passed through Gilead and Manasseh and passed through Mizpah of Gilead. And from Mizpah of Gilead he advanced toward the people of Ammon. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, if you indeed will deliver the people of Ammon into my hands, then it will be whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the people of Ammon shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. Remember that passage. We're going to come back to that. Because really, with Judges 11, the only thing that most people care about is that particular verse. Verse 27, he says, we're going to make an appeal to the judge. He tries to make a diplomatic approach. But if you can't answer with arguments, you go to war. You go to war. I applaud Jephthah which is why we're going to talk about his vow here in a little bit. But I applaud Jephthah because it seems like he did everything he could not to go to war. He sent the messengers over. He tried to do these. He's made 4 arguments about this. And it seems to me that he tried real hard to work this out in a peaceable way. But some people won't take no for an answer, won't take a reasonable approach. Then the Spirit of the Lord came. Jephthah led God's people into war with God's blessing. Not dissimilar to what he did with Gideon. In verse 30, and then Jephthah makes a vow. So Jephthah advanced toward the people of Ammon, verse 32, to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands. And he defeated them from Aor as far as Minnith, 20 cities, and to Abel-Keram with a very great slaughter. Thus the people of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. Now when Jephthah came to his house in Mizpah, there was his daughter coming out to meet him with timbrels and dancing, and she was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass, when he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low. You are among those who trouble me, for I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot go back on it. Verse 36. And she said to him, My father, if you have given your word to the Lord, do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth, because the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the people of Ammon. Then she said to her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me be alone for 2 months, that I may go and wander on the mountains and bewail my virginity, my friends and I. And he said, Go. And she went her way for 2 months, and she went away with her friends, and bewailed her virginity on the mountains. And it was so at the end of the 2 months that she returned to her father, and he carried out his vow with her which he had vowed. She knew no man. And it became a custom in Israel. The daughters of Israel went 4 days each year to lament the daughter of Jephthah the Gilead. So Jephthah's vow. Now remember when I told you earlier that 100% of all commentators say that little circle, that judges, that circle of thing, man, that 100% got that. When it comes to Jephthah's vow, Jephthah makes a vow to God, the Lord, that if God would give him victory over the Ammonites, he would sacrifice the first thing that come from his household when he returned from his battle. Jephthah met with the Ammonites on the battlefield. God gave Israel the victory. And after the war, as Jephthah approached his house, his daughter came out to meet him with music and dancing. What the great debate is whether that vow was that after his daughter came out, did he actually offer his daughter as a burnt sacrifice, or was it that she would forego childbearing? And when I said that 100% of commentators are on the side of the cycle, when it comes to this argument, or this one, it's about 75-25. Now, I'm going to present both sides to you. And I'll let you make up your decision. I'll let you make up your mind. And I'll try to be I'll try not to be, I'm going to put my finger on the scale a little bit. So, first of all, did he offer his child as a sacrifice? For me, that seems a little inconsistent. It is forbidden in Leviticus 18:21 and verse 22 through 5. There is no evidence that any Israelite ever offered a human sacrifice prior to the days of Ahaz in 734. And we know that when we get to the prophets, one of the problems is they sacrifice babies, but the same thing. Jephthah was a God-fearing man, we know that. And it's hard to believe that he would think that God would be pleased with such a sacrifice. So was the sacrifice that he would forego childbearing? I think the text seems to indicate this view. And we're going to take a look at that. Verse 39, after when they say the vow was completed, verse 39 says she knew not a man. What's the point of that? Is if she was put to death. Verse 37 and verse 38, they allow 2 months to bewail her virginity. The fact that she's not going to be having a child. Note that in the book, or in the text, it points out that Jephthah, that was his only child. And so what does that mean? If my only child is a daughter, and my daughter doesn't have a baby, my bloodline stops. I get no more. Exodus 38 and 1 Samuel 22 refer to women who were virgins that worked in the temple. Anna, in Luke 2, 36 and verse 37, served in the temple, and she was a virgin. So there's precedence for this young lady to be working in the temple and being a virgin and being a temple helper. This was an area, you may remember in the Old Testament, that this is an area that was very precious to women. Genesis 30, verse 1 says, Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, give me children or else I die. It was a big deal for a woman to have a baby. They wanted to carry on the lineage. They wanted to carry on the tribe. They wanted to be part of that. And that whole Rachel and Leah thing really shows that. And I'll just point out to you this way, that in the line of Jesus' succession, if you go back through the line of Jesus' succession, there was a number of barren women that God opened the womb of. I think there were three or four, if I remember correctly. So, go back to verse 30. He says, if you will indeed deliver the people of Ammon into my hands, then it will be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the people of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer up it as a burnt offering. There are a couple of translators that translate that and as a or. So it would read, when I return in peace from the people of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's, or I will offer it up as a burnt offering. it seems a little inconsistent for me to have Jephthah, his daughter, come out and then he offers his daughter as a burnt sacrifice. That doesn't seem consistent to me. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I'm going to repeat it for the people that can't hear. So what Penny said was, Jephthah made the vow, and if it's a situation where he did complete the burnt sacrifice, he did do the burnt offering, it wouldn't be a situation where God necessarily approved of it, but because he made the vow, then he would have to complete the vow. Did I say that right? Or that even God approved of the vow. Usually, again in the commentaries, and it's about 75-25, it's called a rash vow. I don't see anything that Jephthah did. I think you got to read rashness into it, because I don't think that anything that Jephthah did was rash. His actions up to this point have not been rash. I will say one of the things that gets overshadowed by this is that the Lord gave them the victory. The Lord gave them the victory. And they were able to oppress the Ammonites, called it a great slaughter, and they were oppressed. So Sister Penny, that is one of the arguments that people make. That's part of the 75% of the ones I read talk about the fact that it's God wouldn't necessarily approve of it, but if you make a vow, you need to follow your vow.
When he came up with this idea of a vow, what did he think was coming out of the doors of his house?
Okay, so the question's asked, when he came up with this vow, what did he think was coming out of the doors of his house? That's a great question. I don't know. Yes, sir. Brother July says it's not uncommon to keep a sheep inside your tent. That's true. So, now, I present that to you. I'm going to do one of my famous statements here. I presented it to you. I tried to give you both sides. You figure it out, okay? Either way, I ain't going to be mad at you. If you pick the 75%, the wrong side, or the good side, the 25%. No, I don't care. I'm kidding with you. I don't think we should fall out over it. I'm good either way, okay? And if you feel adamantly about one, I'm good. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yes. A lot of commonality between Gideon and Jephthah. Sorry, I'm repeating for the audience. True. Yes.
And there's some similarity in this also, where Jephthah starts low, gets kicked out of his family's home, then he gets called back because he's this warrior of faith, and then we end with this rash or tragic vow that ends in some sort of horrible situation, however you want to see it.
That's a good point. Brother John mentioned that I mentioned the similarities to Gideon. And Gideon has the arc where he starts slow, gets up real high, and at the end of his life has he built a golden Ephraim that our idol that caused a problem. Jephthah in the same way started low, got real high, and then and makes this, and I like your word better, tragic vow, because either way, whichever way we go with this vow, okay, the consequences of it were devastating. Okay, either way you go with the vow, the consequences of it were devastating to Jephthah and his family. All right. Are you a frog? Are you fully reliant on God? You need to be a frog. You need to be fully reliant on God. What does that mean? That means you put your faith and trust and reliance on God in everything that you do, which means you follow his word. Being fully reliant on God means you believe what he says and you do what he says. Are you conforming your life to his will? And then the one thing that comes through clearly with Jephthah is that vows are to be taken seriously. We are to take our vows seriously. Whether it be our vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, okay? Whether it be vow to love, promise, obey, cherish, and all that fun stuff. Whether it be our vow to pay 27% on our credit card. That's a vow. I promise. All right? Vows are to be taken seriously. So we need to be careful with our words and the promises that you make. My kids, when I was growing up, and I'm sure you've done the very same thing, they would come to me and go, Dad, can we do this? Can we do that? And I said, we'll see. And my one little daughter, my middle daughter, she goes, yeah, but do you promise? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, if it's IC, we could not do it or do it. But if you promise, we always do what you promise. I said, you little rat, you know. Be careful with your words and the promises that you make. All right? Any questions or thoughts? Yes, sir, Marty.
Just from the way it's written, that there should be whatsoever comes forth instead of whosoever.
Yeah.
So he was expecting something else.
Yeah, whatsoever. Yeah. Yeah, that Marty points out it's whatsoever, but yeah, it's the argument gets made. That's on that 25% side, but it goes either. It's like I said, not mad at you either way.
I'm a little confused. What is
Jephthah.
Jephthah? His daughter, she was pregnant? She was never had a child. Oh, but then God blessed her with one?
No child at all.
Because I know Hannah was blessed by one. I know different people
Yeah.
in the Bible were blessed by children.
Yeah, not in this case.
Elizabeth married cousin or whatever with John the Baptist.
Yes.
Wasn't she barren too?
Yes, but in this case, no babies involved.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? All right. May God bless you in your studies.